Alright, hey guys, what's going on? It is another Monday, and you know what that means? It's another murderous Monday. And I talk about serial killers, and I upload every Monday, hence the name. And the serial killer that I'll be talking about next is the real-life Leatherface, Ed Gein. How did he... What was his early... who was he? What was his early life like? And why and how did he become so evil? I will answer that and more today as I take you down the perspective mind of a serial killer. So, if you do not want to hear about murder, dismemberment, and using dead people's skin for everyday purposes, I'd say click off this video, and I'll see you in another one. But for anyone that's still with me, let's go. Let's dive in. Edward Theodore Gein, born August 27th. Excuse me. Born August 27th, 1906 to July 26, 1984. He was known as the Butcher of Plainfield, or the Plainfield Ghoul, who was an American murderer and suspected serial killer and body snatcher. Gein committed crimes around his hometown of Plainfield, Wisconsin. It gathered widespread notoriety. In 1957, after authorities discovered that he had exhumed corpses from local graveyards and fashioned keepsakes from their bones and skin, he also confessed to killing two women in a tavern owner named Mary Hogan in 1954 and a hardware store owner, Bernice Worden, in 1957. Gein was initially found unfit to stand trial and confined to a mental health facility. By 1968, he was judged competent to stand trial, which he was found guilty of the murder of Worden. But he was found legally insane and was remanded to a psychiatric institution. Gein died at Mendota Mental Health Institute from a respiratory failure resulting from lung cancer on July 26, 1984, at the age of 77, so he still lived a long life. He is buried next to his family in the Plainfield Cemetery in a now unmarked grave. Childhood. Edward Theodore Gein was born in La Crosse, Wisconsin on August 27th, 1906, the second of two boys of George Philip Gein, 1873 to 1940. So he was literally the baby of the bunch. And Augusta Wilhelmine Gein from 1878 to 1945. Gein had an elder brother named Henry. Augusta, who was fervently religious and normally Lutheran, frequently preached to her sons about the innate immorality of the world, the evil drinking, and her belief that all women were naturally promiscuous. Promiscuous, and instruments of the devil. She reserved time every afternoon to read to them from the Bible, usually selecting verses from the Old Testament and the book of Revelation concerning death, murder, and divine retribution. Gein idolized and became obsessed with her. Augusta hated her husband, and who was an alcoholic who was unable to keep a job. He had worked at various times as a carpenter, a tanner, and an insurance salesman. During his time in La Crosse, Gein's father owned a local grocery shop, but he soon sold the business and left the city with his family to live in isolation on a 155-acre farm in the town of Plainfield, Wisconsin, which became their permanent residence. Augusta took advantage of the farm's isolation by turning away outsiders who could have influenced her sons. 1930 U.S. Census with Gein, 13... Oh, wait, hold on. I don't really know what that means. Gein left the farm only to attend school. Outside of school, he spent most of his time doing chores on the farm. Gein was shy, and classmates and teachers remembered him as having strange mannerisms, such as seemingly random laughter, as if he were laughing at his own personal jokes. To make matters worse, Augusta punished him whenever he tried to make friends. Despite his poor social development, Gein did fairly well in school, particularly in reading. Alright, now death in immediate family. On April 1st, 1940, Gein's father died of heart failure at the age of 66. Ed and his brother Henry began doing odd jobs around town to help cover living expenses. The brothers were generally considered reliable and honest by the rest of the community. While both worked as handymen, Ed also frequently babysat for neighbors. He enjoyed babysitting, seeming to relate more easily to children than adults. See, I was the opposite. I tend to talk more to adults than children. My own age, or people my own age. Henry began dating a divorced mother of two and planned to move in with her. He worried about his brother's attachment to their mother and often spoke ill of her around Ed, who responded with shock and hurt. On May 16th, 1944, Ed was burning away marsh vegetation on the property. The fire got out of control, drawing the attention to the local fire department. By the end of the day, the fire having been extinguished and the firefighters gone, Ed reported his brother missing. With lanterns and flashlights, a search party searched for 43-year-old Henry, whose dead body was found lying face down. Apparently he had been dead for some time, and it appeared that the cause of the death was heart failure, since he had not been burned or injured otherwise, which is also what happened to his father. Well, to their father. It was later reported by biographer Harold Schechter that Henry had bruises on his head, police dismissed the possibility of foul play, and the county coroner later officially listed asphyxiation as the cause of death. The authorities accepted the accident theory, but no official investigation was conducted and an autopsy was not performed. Questioning Gein about the death of Bernice Worden in 1957, state investigator Joe Wilamowski brought up questions about Henry's death. George Arndt, who studied the case, wrote that in retrospect, it was possible and likely that Henry's death was the Cain and Abel, quote, Cain and Abel aspect of this case. With Henry deceased, Ed and Augusta were not alone. We're now alone. Augusta had a paralyzing stroke shortly after Henry's death, and Ed devoted himself to taking care of her. Sometime in 1945, he later recounted, he and his mother visited a man named Smith, just Smith, I guess, who lived nearby to purchase straw. Now, if you guys don't want to hear about this, I suggest skip like 20 seconds. Alright. According to Ed, Augusta witnessed Smith beating a dog. A woman inside the Smith residence came out and yelled for him to stop, but Smith beat the dog to death. Augusta was extremely upset by this scene. However, what bothered her did not appear to be the brutality toward the dog, but rather the presence of the woman. Augusta told Ed that the woman was not married to Smith and so had no business being there, and angrily called her Smith's harlot, which means slut. That's a if you guys know the Crucible, the back in the day with the witches being burned and stuff, right? Witchcraft, right? In 1692, the word harlot is mentioned a lot. That basically means like a prostitute. She had a second stroke soon after, and her health deteriorated rapidly. Augusta died on December 29th, 1945, at the age of 67. Ed was devastated by her death. In the words of Schechter, he had lost only his only friend and one true love, and he was absolutely alone in the world. Aw, that's sad. Yeah, not really, because of what he goes to do. Now he goes to work. Gein held on to the farm and earned money from odd jobs. He boarded up rooms used by his mother, including the upstairs, downstairs parlor, and living room, leaving them untouched, while the rest of the house became increasingly squalid. I guess meaning, and then it says these rooms remained pristine, which means I think that squalid, I think means like tidy, I guess. Gein lived thereafter in a small room next to the kitchen. Around this time, he became interested in reading pulp magazines and adventure stories, particularly those involving cannibals or Nazi atrocities. Specifically concerned Elise Koch, who selected tattooed prisoners to death in order to fashion lampshades and other items from their skin. So that's how he became the real life Leatherface. Gein received a farm subsidy from the federal government starting in 1951. He occasionally worked for the local municipal road crew and crop threshing crews in the Plainfield area. Sometime between 1946 and 1956, he sold an 80-acre parcel of land that Henry owned. Confirmed crimes. On the morning of November 16, 1957, 58-year-old Plainfield hardware store owner Bernice Warden disappeared. The hardware store's truck was seen driving out from the rear of the building at around 9:30 a.m. The hardware store saw few customers the entire day, and some area residents believed that this was because of deer hunting season. Oh, that's actually pretty sad, actually. Warden's son, Deputy Chef Frank Warden, entered the store around 5 p.m. to find the cash register open and bloodstains on the floor, which was now a robbery gone wrong. Frank Warden told investigators that on the evening before his mother's disappearance, Gein had been in the store and was to have returned the next morning for a gallon of antifreeze, which is also used as in the majority of people's crimes. A sales slip for the antifreeze was the last receipt written by Warden on the morning that she disappeared. That evening, Gein was arrested at a West Plainfield grocery store and the Washoe County. I know I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Washoe County Sheriff's Department. Washoe County Sheriff's Department searched the Gein farm. A sheriff's deputy discovered Warden's decapitated body in a shed on Gein's property, hung upside down by her legs with a crossbar at her ankles and ropes at her wrists. The torso was, quote, dressed out like a deer. She had been shot with a .22 caliber rifle, and the mutilations were made after her death. Searching the house, authorities found a whole bunch of stuff that was made by the skin of brutally deceased Bernice Warden and the one that I mentioned before, Mary Hogan. Whole human bones and fragments, a wastebasket made of human skin. Oh, wait, hold on. Actually, if you guys want to skip this, if this basically gives you the willies, gives you the heebie-jeebies, I would say skip probably like a half a minute. It's just basically saying that he used everyday items as he used human skin as everyday items. Alright. So, whole human bones and fragments, a wastebasket made of human skin covering several chairs, skulls on his bedposts, female skulls, some with the tops sawn off, bowls made from human skulls, a corset made from a female torso, skinned from shoulder to waist, leggings made from human leg skin, masks made from the skin of female heads, Mary Hogan's face mask in a paper bag, Mary Hogan's skull in a box, Bernice Warden's entire head in a burlap sack, Bernice Warden's heart in a plastic bag in front of Gein's potbelly stove, which is probably would cook and eat, probably. 9 vulvas in a shoebox, which means vaginas. Which I actually had to look that up. A young girl's dress and the vulvas of two females judged to have been about 15 years old. Wow. A belt made from female human nipples. 4 noses. A pair of lips on a window shade drawstring. A lampshade made from the skin of a human face. Which, remember, that's how the Nazi Lyle, I think it's Ilsekoch. That's the Nazi guy that he actually basically got this from. Fingernails from female fingers. And a female human nipple doorbell. Ding dong. That's not really funny, but yeah. These artifacts were photographed at the State Crime Laboratory and then decently disposed of, quote and end quote. When questioned, Gein told investigators that between 1947 and 1952, he had made as many as 40 nocturnal visits to 3 local graveyards to exhume recently buried bodies while he was in a daze-like state. On about 30 of those visits, he said that he came out of the daze while in the cemetery, left the grave in good order, and returned home empty-handed. On the other occasions, he dug up the graves of recently buried middle-aged women he thought resembled his mother and took the bodies home, where he tanned their skins to make his paraphernalia. Gein admitted to stealing from 9 graveyards and led investigators to their locations. Alan Wilimowski, who we've mentioned earlier, of the State Crime Laboratory, participated in opening 3 test graves identified by Gein. The caskets were inside wooden boxes. The top boards ran crossways, not lengthways. The tops of the boxes were about 2 feet tall, or 61 centimeters, below the surface in sandy soil. Gein had robbed the graves soon after the funerals while the graves were not completed. The test graves were exhumed because authorities were uncertain as to whether the slight Gein was capable of single-handedly digging up a grave during a single evening. They were found as Gein described. One casket was empty, another casket contained Gein's crowbar, and the final casket saw most of the body missing, yet Gein had returned rings and some body parts. Thus, Gein's confession was largely corroborated. Soon after his mother's death, Gein began to create a woman suit so that he could become his mother, to literally crawl into her skin, and he denied having sex with the bodies. Necrophilia. Necrophilia, yeah. No, necrophilia, yeah. He denied having sex with the bodies he exhumed, explaining they smelled too bad. Obviously, there'd be rotting corpses, yeah. During the state's crime laboratory interrogation, Gein also admitted to shooting 51-year-old Mary Hogan, a tavern owner missing since December 8th, 1954, whose head was found in his house, but later denied memory of details of her death. A 16-year-old youth, whose parents were friends of Gein and who attended baseball games and movies with him, reported that Gein kept shrunken heads in his house, which he had described as relics sent by a cousin who had served in the Philippines during World War II. Upon investigation by the police, these were determined to be human facial skins, carefully peeled from corpses used by Gein as masks. During questioning, Sheriff Art Schily, Schley, Shilly, I think Art Shilly, reportedly assaulted Gein by banging his head and face into a brick wall. As a result, Gein's initial confession was ruled inadmissible. Shilly died Sheriff Shilly died of a heart attack. He died of heart failure in 1968. Wow, so heart failure was actually took the lives of his dad and his brother, and now a sheriff, at the age of 43, which was also how old his brother was. I know it's just coincidence, but yeah. Before Gein, he died. The sheriff died of a heart failure in 1968 before Gein's trial. Many who knew Shilly said he was traumatized by the horror of Gein's crimes, and this, along with the fear of having to testify, especially about assaulting Gein, caused his death. Suspected crimes. In addition to the murders of Hogan and Warden, Gein was also considered a suspect in several other unsolved cases, probably Jane Doe cases. In Wisconsin. In November 1957, authorities confirmed Gein was a list of missing persons cases that he had occurred between the death of his mother and Warden. Thus, their suspicions were further aroused after the discovery of Hogan's remains. However, lie detectors seemingly exonerated Gein of any other murders, and his psychiatrists concluded that his violence was only directed to women who physically resembled his mother, which was 4 people in suspected murder of that Gein suspectedly killed. Evelyn Grace Hartley, age 15, went missing while babysitting a 20-month-old girl at the home of La Crosse State College professor Viggo Rasmussen on the evening of October 24th, 1953, in La Crosse, Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin. That evening, her father Richard called the Rasmussen house several times after she failed to check in as planned at 8:30 p.m. He received no answer. Concerned, he drove to the Rasmussen house to find the doors were locked, the lights and radio on, and items scattered all over the house. The living room furniture had been moved around to different places, as were Evelyn's school books. Richard found her shoes in different rooms, one shoe upstairs and one shoe downstairs. He also found his daughter's broken glasses upstairs. Richard did not find Evelyn in the house. After his arrest, Gein was questioned regarding Evelyn's disappearance. However, he denied involvement in the disappearance and passed 2 lie detectors tests, and police found no trace of Evelyn's remains during a search of Gein's property. If all the doors were locked, he probably like bashed in like a window or something, and because the doors were locked or something. I don't know. It doesn't say, but it clearly shows that he knew the outline of the house. He even knew where her glasses were. So it doesn't say that he broke into the locked house. So Victor Harold Travis, another one, age 43, a resident of Adams County, went off to hunt deer in the company of 43-year-old acquaintance Raymond Burgess, a resident of Milwaukee, on November 1st, 1952. In the late afternoon, the pair stopped for refreshments at Mac's Bar in Plainfield for several hours. Wow, several hours just to go get a drink. At around 7 p.m., they drove... at 7 p.m., they both left the bar, got into Burgess's car, and drove real far. No. And drove away. The hunters, along with the car Burgess was driving. The hunters, along with the car Burgess was driving, were never seen again, and no trace of them was ever found. Travis and Burgess had been hunting on the next farm to Gein's, despite to his objections on the day of their disappearance. Now, another one. Wait, hold on. Oh, I actually missed a suspect, but I'll do hers last. In addition, Gein had also been tentatively linked to the June 1954 disappearance of neighbor James Walsh, age 32. Walsh and his wife lived near Gein, who performed chores for her after her husband went missing. Gein was also investigated for potential involvement in the August 1956 disappearance of Irene Keating, age 30, who was last seen in Plainfield, and in the attempted abduction of Judy Rodenkal, age 16, from Auroraville. Now, the one that I skipped was before Evelyn Grace Hartley. It was Georgia Jean Welker, only 8 years old, disappeared near her farm in Fort Atkinson at approximately 3:30 p.m. on May 1st, 1947. She was given a lift home from grade school in Jefferson by a neighbor who dropped Welker off at the lane that led from U.S. Highway 12 to the Welker farm. Welker was last seen pausing to open the family mailbox and removing a stack of mail. She was never seen again. Witnesses reported seeing a dark-colored, possibly black 1936 Ford sedan with a gray plastic spotlight in the vicinity that afternoon. Gein owned a black 1937 Ford. So 1 year difference, but it was also a Ford. And nowadays, well, like literally, like it actually probably started in like the 90s, probably. You actually couldn't get a ride. Well, that's not true. Actually, you can still get a ride from the neighbor, but a teacher, because they were talking about a school, right? Even though it was a neighbor, I'm just letting you guys know that it's, at the back of the 90s, I think they stopped having teachers drive kids home from school. And then that's also how they did the song "Don't Stand So Close to Me" by the Police, because the police will actually get them. No pun intended. Aftermath and trial. On November 21st, 1957, Gein was arraigned. Gein was arraigned on one count of first-degree murder in Waushara County Court where he pleaded still not guilty by reason of insanity. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia and found mentally incompetent, thus unfit for trial. We have seen a lot of serial killers that are schizophrenic. So that's a common theory in serial killers. Motivations. He was sent to the Central State Hospital for the Criminally Insane, now the Dodge Correctional Institution, a maximum security facility in Waupun, which I don't know where that is, and later transferred to the Mendota State Hospital, where she died in Madison, Wisconsin. In 1968, doctors determined Gein was mentally able to confer with counsel and participate in his defense. The trial began on November 7th, 1968, and lasted only 1 week. A psychiatrist testified that Gein had told him that he did not know whether the killing of Warden was intentional or accidental. Gein had told him that while he examined a gun in the Warden store, the weapon discharged and killed Warden. He said he was not aimed the rifle at Warden and did not remember anything else that happened that morning. At the arrest, someone's getting someone. If you can hear the ambulance, sounds like a police car. I don't know. At the request of the defense, Gein's trial was held without a jury, with Judge Robert H. Gallmer presiding. Gein was found guilty by Gallmer. On November 14th, a second trial dealt with Gein's sanity. After testimony by doctors for the prosecution and defense, Gallmer ruled Gein not guilty by reason of insanity and ordered him for him to be committed to Central State Hospital for the criminally insane. Gein spent the rest of his life in a mental hospital. Judge Gallmer wrote, due to prohibitive costs, Gein was tried for only one murder, that of Miss Warden. He was also admitted to killing Mary Hogan. Fate of Gein's property and death of Gein. So we're in the home stretch for one more paragraph. Gein's house. And if you guys stayed for me for almost 40 minutes, I applaud you. Alright. Gein's house and. Alright, fate of Gein's property and death of his person. Of himself. Because I didn't want to do 2 paragraphs because the death was just like a couple sentences, so I just mixed them together. Gein's house, a 195-acre property, was appraised at $4,700, equivalent to $50,000 in 2023. His possessions were scheduled to be auctioned on March 30th, 1958, amidst rumors that the house and the land it stood on might become a tourist attraction. Okay. Early on the morning of March 20th, the house was destroyed by fire. A deputy fire marshal reported that a garbage fire had been set 75 feet from the house by a cleaning crew who was given the task of disposing of refuse that hot coals were recovered from the spot of the bonfire, but that the fire did not spread along the ground from the location of the house. Arson was suspected, but the cause of the fire was never officially determined. It is possible that the fire was not considered a matter of urgency by Fire Chief Frank Warden, son of Gein's victim, Bernice Warden. That, remember, he went into the tavern store, and saw the blood and the cash register open earlier in this case. When Gein learned of the incident while in detention, he shrugged and said, "Just as well." Gein's Ford sedan, which he used to hold the bodies of his victims, was sold at public auction for $760, equivalent to $8,000 in 2023, to Carnival Sideshow operator Bunny Gibbons. It's probably haunted because of all the deaths in there. Gibbons charged carnival goers 25 cents admission to see it. Gein died at the Mendota Mental Health Institute due to respiratory failure, secondary to lung cancer, on July 26, 1984, at the older age of 77. Over the years, souvenir seekers chipped pieces from his gravestone at the Plainfield Cemetery until the stone itself was stolen in 2000. It was recovered in June of 2001 near Seattle, Washington, and was placed in storage at the Washoe County Sheriff's Department. The gravesite itself is now unmarked, but not unknown. Gein is interred between his parents and brother in the cemetery. So in between his parents and his brother. And for all you metalheads out there, a fun fact, this case sounds like a song, doesn't it? Well, it actually was a song. Fun fact, the song Dead Skin Mask by Slayer was inspired by Ed Gein. And yeah, so that's about it. I will not be doing more cases of people that are well known for a while, because I spoke to my therapist, which I actually do agree with, that more people would actually tune into my channel if I talk about cases that a lot of people haven't heard of. Just like their town and stuff probably has heard of it, but still, yeah. So no Richard Ramirez, no Jeffrey Dahmer. I mean, I obviously heard of basically a lot of those cases, but this case that I'm going to be doing is I actually saw it a couple hours ago on Oxygen, channel 81, True Crime, on a episode of Snapped. I think it's series 22, episode 4 or something. I don't remember. But it was a colored woman. It was a woman of color in New Orleans. In New Orleans, she killed her husband. I think her third husband. I think her third husband. Don't quote me, but I think her third husband, who was who just got started as being a pastor. And yeah. And I want to say that this woman's brother was in on it too, for a share of $10,000, I think. So if you guys know who I'm talking about, please comment, subscribe. Please comment down below if you can. Sometimes it won't let you. I don't know why. But comment, subscribe, like, and that's it. I'll see you on my next Monday. See you next Monday. Peace.